Hello, I'm Janice and I hope you're all doing well. Today's episode is going to be all about Xi'an foods, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you to some of my go-to places for Xi'an food in Sydney instead of showing you what I typically order when I go to these restaurants. Before we start, I do want to thank our sponsor for this video, Skillshare. If you haven't heard of Skillshare before, it is an online learning community with thousands of different classes available that are taught by industry experts, from graphics design to filmmaking to freelancing to entrepreneurship. A few of my friends actually started side businesses during this time, and if you're looking to do something similar, I recommend checking out Skillshare's featured freelance and entrepreneurship classes on, the best ways to build something like that and some tips on how to do it. Subscription to their platform is typically $10 a month, but Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 of my subscribers who click on the link in my description 2 months free premium membership to the platform, so you can get unlimited access to all their classes for free for 2 months. All right, that's pretty much all I have to say. So without further ado, let's head to our first restaurant for this video. Our first stop today takes us to Burwood at a restaurant located on the busy Burwood Road. Okay, I've just arrived at Burwood at a place called Xi'an Eatery. This family-owned restaurant is open every day, serving a range of authentic, delicious Xi'an eats and arguably one of the best BIANG noodles in Sydney. Their noodles are handmade fresh every day, and I would be remiss if I didn't order their signature noodles and their delicious mo. Firstly, we have something that's kind of like a Chinese hamburger. It's called a mo. The direct translation is meat in a bun, but it's not like any hamburger bun. It's more similar to a flatbread, and instead of a meat patty, it's stuffed with flavorful stewed pork belly. And you've also got spring onions and coriander, and it smells amazing. It's really hot because it just came out. The meat is incredibly tender and flavorful, and they've got quite a bit of spring onions and also coriander inside as well. And I'm a fan of both, so I actually really like it. So the two buns that hold together this extremely tender and succulent pork, it holds it together very well. It doesn't get soggy, it doesn't break apart, and there's a nice sort of crisp on the outside as well. And the way that they've sliced it is they didn't slice it completely, they sliced it sort of kind of till the very end, so it still holds together a little bit like a pita bread type thing. I just can't get over how flavorful and how tender those pieces of pork really are. You can actually see pieces of fat in and amongst the pork. Next up, we have the long-awaited BIANG noodles. It looks absolutely amazing. The word BIANG is one of the most complex Chinese characters, and this word is actually an onomatopoeia for the sound that's made in the process of making these noodles. And it has egg, it has tomatoes, it has a bunch of vegetables, and it also has pork, and you mix it around, and these noodles are so thick and it looks very chewy. They're all handmade in store, and they smell so fragrant. It smells a bit vinegary as well. I asked for this to be not spicy. You have the option of having it spicy as well, of course. Look at how thick these noodles are. They also gave me one strand of a different type of noodle. It's a spinach one because they wanted me to try it as well. So the rest of it is just the normal noodle, and then I've got one strand of a spinach noodle. And in terms of the filling, they're both the same. They've got a bunch of different vegetables with meat and with egg and also tomatoes. Before I talk about the flavors of this, I just want to say these noodles are very chewy. It's got a lot of bite to it. It almost doesn't feel like they're noodles because they're so thick. But before we move on to anything else, I do want to try the spinach one, which is also, look how massively long this is. I think it looks more like spinach than it does taste like spinach. Like if I had to close my eyes and I had to try these two noodles, I don't know if I'd be able to tell the difference. So before we mix these noodles, as you saw, there was chili, there was quite a bit of garlic, and there was Sichuan pepper. And once you mix everything in, like you can feel the spice kind of on your lips, but it's not unbearably spicy. Oh, and I also need to add the pork is very flavorful and it's quite tender as well. Parts of it is attached to the fat, which I think is what makes it quite tender. But yeah, this dish has everything you need. It has carbs, it has your protein, it has your vegetables. It's great. So as I was eating everything that was on this table, I was recommended to try one of their dumplings. They're like, this is one of our signatures, you have to give it a go. So here I am giving it a go. This is like that dumpling skirt that's meant to be very, very crunchy. So here we have our first dumpling. I'm gonna have it as is without the sauce, and then we'll try it again with the sauce that's available. The base is very, very crispy, which I like. And inside there's a mixture of pork and also vegetables. And the filling of these dumplings, it's very tender and very juicy. Okay, now I'm gonna try these dumplings with the sauce that's been offered. It looks very, very spicy, but it's fine. The sauce has some sesame, chili oil, coriander, and some vinegar. Oh, this tastes delicious. This sauce looks very spicy, but it's more vinegary than anything. It has quite a bit of black vinegar in it, which I absolutely love. And I think, you know, dumplings, when you have sauces with it, it just makes it perfect. All right, and that pretty much concludes our time here at Xi'an Eatery. If you only can order 2 things from this menu, I would definitely recommend these noodles and the roujiamo. But this is not it for this video. We will still be going to a few other places. So without further ado, let's head there right now. The next place on our list takes us to Eastwood at a restaurant called Seabay Kitchen. They do a range of hand-pulled noodle dishes, both dry and in soup, rice dishes, dumplings, and cold starter items. I get takeaway from this place way too often, and for today, we've got a starter dish, a cucumber starter dish. We've got a cold skin noodle dish, which is the liang pi. We've also got a chicken hand-pulled noodle with chili. These are the dishes that I typically order whenever I come here, and they never disappoint. So the liang pi and the cucumber starter has just arrived, so let me show you what they look like. So the liang pi, although it's called a cold skin noodle, it's very different to typical noodles that you would eat. It's a mixture of flour and water and then steamed into like a really thin pancake and then cut into strips. And the texture is typically very springy and elasticy. In here we've got chili, we've got sliced cucumber, bean sprouts. It's a little bit spicy, but it's also really refreshing as well. This is the cold skin noodles, the liang pi. It's completely coated in that chili oil. These noodles are extremely chewy and bouncy, and you can definitely taste the chili there as well. But it's very refreshing because I think it has the cucumber, it has the bean sprouts, and it's also got wheat gluten in it, which kind of looks like a tofu puff. It's quite spongy and it soaks up the sauce that is in this liang pi. It's quite chilly, so it's got a kick to it, and the more you eat it, the more you start to sweat. But this is something that I love. We always get it, and it's perfect. We've also got a cucumber salad. This is an extremely refreshing dish. It's got obviously cucumber, and it's also got some garlic, some sesame oil, some rice vinegar, and just tossed together. There's something about it that just makes it extremely appetizing. It's perfect for summer. I eat it in winter anyway because it's just really delicious. Yeah, it's very light. It's very refreshing. I don't know what else to say about it. It's got garlic. I can finish this entire plate of cucumber salad by myself.
What do they say? Just a cucumber.
And now we move on to my favorite dish in this restaurant. I always get it every time I come here, and I can never get sick of it. This is the cold noodles with chicken, and it is a massive plate of noodles. They have delicious hand-pulled noodles with cucumber, with sliced chicken, and the sauce that these noodles are coated in, it's absolutely amazing. It's got chili oil, it's got Chinese vinegar as well, and as you're mixing it, it's so fragrant, it's so appetizing. You kind of smell the chili, but it's not overpowering. It's why I come back for this over and over and over again. I'm feeling that kick of the chili, but it's so fragrant. So it kind of kicks quite hard, but you can't help but keep going back. And the ingredients to this dish, other than the sauce, it's actually quite simple. You know, they have the chicken, they have the sliced cucumber, they have some spring onions, and then your hand-pulled noodles. But it's a classic. It's so thick, it's so chewy, it's got so much bite to it. Give this a go if you come here. And let me know what you think. I want to know whether it's just me being, you know, overly obsessed with this dish, or whether everyone else thinks it's as good as I think it is. And we are pretty much done with Seabay, but we're not done with this video. Let me take you to our next location for this video. Our third destination for this video takes us to Haymarket at a restaurant that's been open for over 10 years. They do an extensive amount of Xi'an eats and you can find all of them on their specials. We have just arrived at Xi'an Cuisine here at Haymarket and I've ordered dishes that I reckon tastes really good and sort of doesn't replicate what we've already had in some of the other restaurants. It's one of the first things that I'm having is this noodle dish. It's a sliced pork and vegetable noodle without soup but mixed with sauces. There are a bunch of vegetables including potatoes, carrots, tofu, black fungus that's generously tossed in their sauce that just attaches to these noodles. Now these noodles aren't as chewy as the BIANG noodles that we've had previously, but it soaks up that sauce quite well. And you do see a bit of the chili flakes around these noodles, but the spice is not overwhelmingly spicy. Although this noodle doesn't have any soup, it's still quite hot temperature-wise. And although the noodle isn't very chewy, it's quite easy to eat. You just slurp it. And that's pretty much it. I just like it because it's so flavorful and it's so appetizing. Next up, we have a pita bread in lamb soup with thin noodles. This is a羊肉泡馍, which translates as lamb-soaked pita bread, and it's a dish eaten quite often in Xi'an. It's a bowl of hot lamb broth served with lamb meat, chopped up pita bread, and of course the addition of these thin glass noodles. I think first off, we'll try the soup in this noodle soup first, and then we'll sort of go from there. The lamb flavor is very, very strong, but it's not gamey. The lamb is very soft, it's very tender, and it's still a little bit juicy, and I do appreciate that it's not too gamey at all. If you're a fan of lamb, you definitely have to try this. In terms of the noodles, these glass noodles kind of take on the taste of the broth, which has a strong lamb flavor. It's a little peppery with hints of sour anise and citron peppercorns. And in terms of the texture, it's quite bouncy. It's more chewy than the noodles we've just had. It's not mushy, it doesn't go soggy, which I appreciate. I also appreciate the addition of the bread in the soup. So even though it's been soaking in the broth, it doesn't break apart or disintegrate, but instead acts as tiny chewy sponges that soaks up all the flavors of the broth. So if you're a fan of lamb, you definitely have to try this. And it's winter right now. This is kind of like the perfect bowl of noodles for a time like winter because it warms your body up. And that is it for this video. We've covered a lot of food from various restaurants, so I'll put everything that I ordered in my description, so if there's anything you saw that you liked, you can order it as well. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching till the end. I post new videos every week, so check them out if you have time. Have an amazing rest of the day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Change your intro.
Bye.
Change your outro.
Change your face. How about that?